And hello to my Year 10s. So what you got here then is a lesson which has very kindly been provided by Mrs. Taylor for the whole of Year 10, and her audio instructions are there. Now, rather than upload that to show my homework as a PowerPoint, which wouldn't work for some of you on your devices, you're about to watch a recording of her recording, and you'll just need to pause it in different places, as she says, really, and have a go at the activities, and then submit your work to show my homework for me. So again, this is part of our revision and just going back over A Christmas Carol to make sure it's fresh in your brains. Thanks very much, everybody, and I shall hand over to Mrs. Taylor.
Hello Year 10, it's Mrs. Taylor here. Welcome to my lesson on A Christmas Carol, and today we're going to look at setting and atmosphere. To begin with, I'd like you to spend a couple of minutes looking at that image and making some notes about how it could link to A Christmas Carol. Think about the content of the novella, think about the social and historical context you will be aware of after having studied the novella. Spend a couple of minutes making some notes. As I've mentioned, Year 10, this lesson is on atmosphere and setting, and we're looking at how Dickens uses his language to create atmosphere and setting in the novella. You've already seen this image. Now I would like you to think about how atmosphere is created by the image. So really look in detail at the picture and work out the clues there that suggest to you what the atmosphere of that street could be. I'm going to start by reading you this extract. It was cold, bleak, biting weather, foggy withal, and he could hear the people in the court outside go wheezing up and down, beating their hands upon their breasts and stamping their feet upon the pavement stones to warn them. The city clocks had only just gone 3, but it was quite dark already. It had not been light all day, and candles were flaring in the windows of the neighbouring offices like ruddy smears upon the palpable brown air. The fog came pouring in at every chink and keyhole, and was so dense without that although the court was of the narrowest, the houses opposite were mere phantoms. To see the dingy cloud come drooping down, obscuring everything, one might have thought that nature lived hard by and was brewing on a large scale. Okay, you should have already downloaded the Word document that came along with this lesson on Show My Homework. You need to have a pen or highlighters or some coloured pens, and I would like you to highlight from this extract the 4 most effective non-finite verbs. So you're looking for doing words there. The 4 most effective adjectives, your descriptive words, and the 4 most effective nouns that you think add to how Dickens has created setting and atmosphere. So spend a few minutes annotating that text. Identify the verbs, the adjectives and the nouns, and then if you have time and you understand them, make a note about how you think they impact on setting and atmosphere. Okay, we're looking at the verbs here, and they are the ones highlighted in green. Hopefully you've picked out 4 of those. You might want to add the rest to your annotations of your extract. And I want you to spend just a minute or so thinking about how the atmosphere is created by the extended noun phrases. So they're listed below here. People wheezing, beating, stamping, candles flaring, fog pouring in, the dingy cloud drooping, obscuring, and nature brewing. You've got the nouns, people, candles, fog, dingy cloud, nature, and then those verbs that add to that are part of that extended noun phrase that create that atmosphere. So think about if you can identify what atmosphere there is created. Now looking at the adjectives, they are the words in purple. Hopefully again you've highlighted 4 of those. You might want to highlight the rest on your annotations, but think about the semantic field created by those adjectives. How do those words all come together for one big topic, one theme? How is that working in the text? Okay, link it to atmosphere and setting. How do those words all come together to create that atmosphere? Spend, again, a couple of minutes just looking at that, thinking of that and making some notes. And now onto the nouns. I've identified 4 in orange. There are more on the text, so you can have a look at those as well if you wish to. Think about how these nouns foreshadow the happenings of the evening, and also this challenge question: how do these nouns reflect the way that Scrooge's viewpoint is limited and obscured in some ways? So although this particular extract focuses on the setting, it does develop the character of Scrooge. It links to the character of Scrooge. Spend a few minutes just having a think about those, seeing if you can work out how Dickens has used these nouns to foreshadow the happenings of the evening and to reflect Scrooge's viewpoint, the fact that it's limited and obscured. Make a few notes, spend a couple of minutes. I'm going to read the second extract now. Meanwhile, the fog and darkness thickened so that people ran about with flaring links, proffering their services to go before horses in carriages and conduct them on their way. The ancient tower of a church, whose gruff old bell was always peeping slyly down at Scrooge out of a Gothic window in the wall, became invisible and struck the hours and quarters in the clouds with tremulous vibrations afterwards, as if its teeth were chattering in its frozen head up there. The cold became intense. In the main street at the corner of the court some labourers were repairing the gas pipes and had lighted a great fire in a brazier, round which a party of ragged men were gathered and boys were gathered, warming their hands and winking their eyes before the blaze in rapture. The water plug, being left in solitude, its overflowing sullenly congealed and turned to misanthropic ice. Okay, another great description from Dickens there, and I would like you to do similar to what we did earlier with the first extract. Highlight the 4 most effective non-finite verbs, the 4 most effective adjectives, and the 4 most effective nouns in this piece. Really focus on the ones that help to create that setting and atmosphere. Spend a few minutes annotating your extract. And just use this slide to double check you have identified those nouns, verbs and adjectives. Okay, obviously I've picked out more than 4 there, but you can add to your annotations, your highlighting as well. So have a read through and just double check you have identified those. Some questions now for you to consider to develop your understanding of that extract. So that's the extract on the previous slide. Think about how this description builds on the atmosphere that we looked at earlier in stage 1, that's the first extract. So how does the second one build on the atmosphere of the first one? Think about why you think Dickens chose to write this statement in a short, simple sentence. How does that link to the adjective intense? So look at the short sentence. What do you notice that's different about sentence 4? Why is there warmth and a sense of community in this sentence? And then what do you make of the way Dickens describes the solitary object as congealed and misanthropic? If you're not sure of those words, look them up. How does this link to Dickens's attitude towards Scrooge, how he's trying to convey that character towards us? So have a look at those questions. Do what you can. See if you can develop your understanding of the text using and applying those questions. You can add to your annotations on the text. You don't need to answer the questions in full at all, but you can add to your annotations. And just looking a little of how Dickens uses personification in the extract and indeed in the rest of the novella. Now, the use of personification adds to the text's moods, and Dickens uses it to bring the novella's setting to life. Think about the gruff old bell that we looked at in that particular extract, and later on the onions in the grocer's shops appear ruddy brown-faced and broad-girthed as they sit winking from their shelves, so they're like little fat people winking from their shelves. And that's a more playful example of personification that makes the city seem exciting and alive and reflects the energy surrounding Christmas. Other times in the novella, personification is used to reinforce what is being described. So, for example, in the second chapter, the second stave, the crisp air laughed as the boys shout to each other, so it's making the setting mimic what's going on with the characters. And personification isn't just used to describe objects, it can be used to give human forms to abstract concepts. So thinking about the personification of ignorance and want as ragged, desperate children is a really good example of this. So that's just some more information about personification and how Dickens uses it. Okay, the question on the next slide is the one I'd like you to answer and upload to Show My Homework as evidence for your learning this lesson. Here's a question that's very, very similar to a paper 1 question 2, your English language paper 1, looking at how a writer uses language. In this particular question, you're looking at how Dickens uses language here to describe London. Think about setting and atmosphere. He sets the novella in London, he creates that atmosphere. There's some guidance there, as you would get in a question 1, and I would like you to spend about 15 minutes answering this question. Look back through your notes. You've annotated this extract. It should help you put together your response. Please remember to upload that as evidence of your learning for this lesson. Thanks, Year 10.
And at that point is when I'm going to jump in as well and just see if I can go back a slide. Hopefully she won't start talking though. And just remind you then, it's the PEAR structure we're looking for. So you'd say, so Dickens makes London seem very, intense and threatening. And he does this through his use of name a method at that point, like the personification you heard Mrs. Taylor talking about. And that's your P, then your evidence, hopefully that's straightforward. Your analysis, this is where it really kicks in. So we've done a bit of work on this more recently, but I know it's something you guys still need to work on. So looking at the effects of specific words, and then finally again, what sort of mood or feeling is Dickens trying to create, and why does he want London to seem like that? And you could try and think about like the parallel between Scrooge and London at that point as well. So thanks very much for watching this. I hope it's been of use. Thank you very much to Mrs. Taylor as well, and see you all soon. Bye bye.